Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your guest host, Jessi Megna, the marketing director at Jill Allen and Associates. Today, Jill and I will be diving into some game-changing concepts and her favorite ideas from the book Who Not How. This episode is all about looking for ways to improve your practice through delegation and goal setting. We'll explore why the idea of Superman syndrome might not be all it's cracked up to be, and how shifting your focus from doing everything yourself to finding the right who's can transform your practice. Let's get started.
Hey docs, on this podcast, I talk about a lot of different ways you can set your practice apart. But here's one that might surprise you. Maybe you haven't thought about it before, but the equipment you use can make a big difference, not just for the patient experience, but for you and your team too. That's why I want to let you know about a new line of orthodontic equipment from ADEC. I visited their headquarters in Oregon earlier this year to take a sneak peek for myself, and I have to say, I was impressed. ADEC has manufactured award-winning dental equipment for 60 plus years, and they're bringing that same level of excellence to ortho. From comfortable, compact patient chairs to a versatile workstation and delivery to ergonomic dental stools, ADEC orthodontic equipment is designed for a smooth and easy workflow. Day after day, patient after patient, see the difference it can make for your practice. Click the link in our show notes to learn more about ADEC Orthodontic Solutions. We all know running and growing an orthodontic practice isn't easy, and technology is supposed to help you, but oftentimes your practice management software doesn't. Some of them are even clunky and need lots of third-party add-ons. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to my startup and existing clients, because Greyfinch is different. Greyfinch is an all-in-one web-based platform that saves you time and boosts your client base, productivity, and bottom line, with no downloads or third-party software needed. It even has tools you can't find anywhere else, like televisits, two-way email and text messaging, a patient self-service hub, and much more. Want to see how it can grow your practice? Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen and see why countless leading practices have made the switch.
Oh my gosh, we get to do another episode of Picking Your Brain. I think everybody has been waiting for another episode like this.
Jessi, it's going to be
fun. I'm so glad we get to do another one of these. Just get things started and to get things warmed up, because this is typically the part of the episode where you ask your guests to tell the audience who they are and what they do. And since we already know a lot about the great Jill Allen, maybe you could share a passion pursuit or a hobby or an interest that you have right now with our listeners.
I'm sure many people know, if they've met me across the years, my heart is in the mountains of Colorado. If I have an opportunity to get away, it is always going to be doing something outdoors. So whether that's mountain biking or hiking, I love my doggies. Anytime I get an opportunity to be out there with them, my husband, my family, my kids, camping, hiking. And I also, for some of you who may not know, am a off-road motorcyclist, still even in my 50s. I've got a really awesome KTM motorcycle and just love it. That's probably my passion. Anything and everything that has to do with the mountains and being able to be out on that motorcycle is still just a really fun thing for me.
Having been camping with you and chasing your dirt trail on your bike, I know I can attest to the skill that Jill brings to that sport and her love for the mountains. I'm so glad that you shared that with them. I really do think that's such a big embodiment of who you are and the things that you love.
It's a little bit more of that brave, not perfect, right? Be brave, not perfect.
Right.
I'm definitely not perfect, but I will do my part to be brave and ride with the guys out there.
And you are brave. Some of the things I've seen you do on that bike, very brave. Good stuff. Okay, let's dive in. We're getting bookish today. Like, we're talking all about one of your favorites, which is Who Not How. And so I'm wondering if you can start by giving us a brief synopsis of the book and the reasons why you found it so inspiring for orthodontics.
Yeah, sure. I think as a business owner, we have to surround ourselves and be committed to continually learning. A lot of orthodontists spend a lot of time in school, and you get to that point and you're like, okay, I'm opening my practice and I don't really want to be still learning. I spent a significant part of my life learning. I feel as business owners, it is important that we are constantly keeping our minds open to new business practices and how to be better leaders, how to be better at what we do. This translates into, many of you probably know, I am an avid reader. I'm an Audible book queen. It's just my learning style. I'm an Audible learner. If I can put a podcast on, put a book in my ear while I'm out walking, for me, that's a really great way to soak in new information. When I look at my books, there's definitely some business books that are go-tos for me. What you may ask me this year versus where my business books may have been a year or two ago may be very different. And I think that's because we should always be pushing ourselves. This book recently, Who Not How, has had a big impact on me personally as a business owner, but also flows into how I work and interact with my teams and my doctors, especially when I'm training up new doctors that are new into business. And so the book that we're going to be talking about today is Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. They actually have a 3-part book series. I would encourage anybody out there to read or listen to, especially this one. But as far as what this book is about and why I think it's so important is, I feel as business owners, and again, I've done this journey of a business owner the last 18 years. When we start off our businesses, everything is about us. We are the who in our business. It is our dream, our practice, our business. Very difficult to grow your business if you don't start surrounding yourself with the right people, your who's. And that could be our team members. I can remember going from myself to one employee to another employee, the other people that are important that we're plugging into our business and maybe personal lives, and how important that is for us to create freedom of time for ourselves, or freedom of money, relationships, or purpose. Some of that is just an evolution of who we are as business owners and where we go as we grow. But I think that a lot of people can get stuck in a first level and never move beyond it, and their businesses flounder. And that's a very long-winded synopsis.
Hey, we're all for the words here. Lay it on us. You pointed out a lot of great things. I mean, I read the book too. One of the things you talked about was when the business is in its inception, you have to be at the center of it. You have to be the epicenter of everything that's happening and a part of all of the decisions in that business. Just having worked together as long as we have, and you being a mentor in my life and having done so much business together, I've seen you in that same position and how you've grown past it. And so there's one thing that comes to mind when we talk about that epicenter of things, and that's Superman syndrome, right? Yeah. And I think at face value, that sounds like this really great thing, right? Like I'm Superman and I can do it all, but that's probably a little bit misleading. And in business, it can really be an Achilles heel for us. I'm wondering if you can explain why that's something we should avoid, what it means in terms of the book and how it affects your practice.
I think it can be very misleading. When I was growing the consulting business, we all start at a place where it is 100%. We are betting on ourselves. We are betting on our charisma. We're betting on our smarts. We're betting on that I chose the right location. I can make my business work. As a business owner, we all fall into that Superman syndrome, which to me is just that I got to do it all. Another way of thinking about it can sometimes be micromanaging. I've got to have my fingers in everything, or else it's going to fall through the cracks. I hear this all the time from doctors. Nobody else is going to do it better than me. Nobody else is going to have as much passion about the success of my business as me. Early on in our careers, we do have to have that grit, right? I'm going to work 7 days a week. Family, I love you, but you got to give me the 3 years to get my business off the ground. There is that give and take where we are not in balance. I think as business owners, you can't really say, I've got work-life balance and do a startup practice.
No, you won't.
I could not say I had work-life balance when I started my consulting business. The difference is when we stay in that Superman or Superwoman syndrome, that becomes the roadblock to us moving forward in success. A lot of times when I look out and doctors reach out, they are the limiting factor to why their practice can't grow anymore. I see this a lot in practices where doctors say, I need to be in the new patient exam. I have to spend at least a half hour or 40 minutes with every single patient that comes in the door. But there's only a certain amount of time that you as a doctor have. And me as a consultant, if I have to spend every hour committed to every client, I can only have so many clients and my business stops growing. I become that roadblock. When we think about this Superman syndrome and what it means, it sounds really sexy. Ooh, I'm Superwoman. I can do it all. But it's great to a point. Then it becomes, like you said, our Achilles heel. What I hope for anybody listening is for you to really evaluate, are you at the point where you need to stop being Superman or Superwoman? Is it time for you to start evolving and taking away the knot that you are creating within your own business to you maybe making it to that next level? And I think that is where directly where who, not how comes into place there.
Ooh, preach, Jill. That is good stuff. Hope everybody's taking notes. That is some wise words from a very wise woman. Yeah, you're spot on, right? It's a self-inflicted limit to success. You put yourself at the epicenter of your goals and you're limiting your growth mindset. I think you gave us a great example of what that looks like in a TC room. Since this is something we hear a lot from our practices and our doctors asking us, what do I do? What's the solution? I'm in this self-inflicted limit when I can't get myself out of it. I'm wondering if you can give us some more examples of how do we shift a goal that might currently be centered around a doctor and implement a who into that so that way they don't have to have that self-inflicted limit anymore. And I'm wondering if maybe you can help us see an example for inside of the practice and around the business, the part that doesn't necessarily involve the teams.
Yeah, for sure. As we talked about, it could be something in the TC room or whatnot. Let's use another example. I think this is a tough one for a lot of doctors because anytime we are talking about money, whether it's personal or business, we hear all of these stories about embezzlement or not wanting to let our team have access to your numbers or to your bank accounts. That's exactly right. This isn't an episode about that, but I'm just going to talk about money for a minute and startup practices where I will a lot of times see doctors that cannot trust their team to deposit checks, to take in and reconcile money on the software side of things. They won't even let them open the mail because they've got such a fear that there is going to become this issue. Here's a great example. I had a doc that would not let their team open the mail, would not let them do anything with depositing money, even though they might have had safeguards that they could put in place to help with that. And therefore, their collections started getting behind. Their accounts were not correct because the bottleneck became the doctor had all of these checks and mail piling up on their desk and piling up on their desk and checks getting lost. And they didn't have the time to open the mail, look at the EOBs, to pull out the checks, to go to the bank, to put it in, to give it back to the team member, to post to the account. And then it becomes this big bottleneck because they don't have money in their checking account. The team member can't answer questions for the patient calling in. Checks are being lost or going void because they haven't been deposited in time. The doctor had this need for control, and it became the bottleneck to the practice being successful. That's an extreme case, but it's still something that happens. When I think about that example, as we are doctors and moving forward, there comes this point where you have to trust, but verify, and put systems in place to trust, but verify. So if I were that doctor, we worked through it and got good systems in place, trust an employee, but verify that things were being done right and that there was not fraud, and that all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I got money in my bank account. My team member can answer questions immediately. We're getting payments much quicker from the insurance companies because we aren't losing checks, or we aren't missing a questionnaire that stopped them paying insurance until they got the questionnaire back or whatnot. And so I think, like, when you think of it from a who, a lot of times those who's are trusting the team members that we are choosing to put in place, then putting the layers in place from a protocol standpoint. As a leader or a manager, you've got quick ways to dive in and see if things are being done. From the back end business side, a perfect example could be trusting a third party company to manage something within our business. Instead of having an employee in my office doing financials, it's going to be a company that manages it for me. And I'm going to have very set systems in place to get that off my plate. I need to verify, checking in, reading my reports, looking at what's going on, questioning things that don't seem right. You can't just be pick it, stick it, don't think about it again. But I think that's a third party component where a who can come in. On a personal side of the business, as a business owner, we'll keep in the vein of financials. There's a point in our businesses where we don't have the money to pay for bookkeepers, and you're doing your own reconciling of your accounts, making sure the money comes into your QuickBooks or whatever your accounting software is and all of that. But there comes this point where you have to think about it as, and even myself, I've had to do this self-reflecting, like, what is my time worth? And it could be dollar, but it also could be, what is my time worth and what I'm sacrificing with my family, what I'm sacrificing with my relationships with friends, what I'm sacrificing with my relationship with my husband. There are also these components where we have to say, my who may be, it's worth it for me to spend the money on a bookkeeper to get me out of reconciling 12 different credit cards every month, or to move to a point where I am using a CPA, somebody that is actually involved in making sure that I am moving from a wealth management standpoint into the right place. I think what we do not do a lot of times in the business is give ourselves permission to ask for help, and that help comes in the who's that we're putting ourselves in. It almost feels like I should be able to do it. That Superman syndrome. I should be able to do it because I'm smart enough. But really, it's more freeing, and it comes back to the book, Freedom of Time. What is my time worth? Not the financial necessarily. I could put a dollar amount to what I could equate my hourly rate to be. Each doctor listening could do that. But when I look back and go, gosh, I don't have any friends anymore, or I don't have a relationship with my kids anymore, or I really envisioned as I became older and had grandkids that I would be able to be more involved in their lives, and instead they know me through a screen.
I think what you're talking about, which is not often spoken about in business, is the cost of doing business from your personal life and happiness. There is a real cost associated with that. And I do think that's something that I appreciate you like giving a spotlight to, because when you're thinking about who it is that you want to bring into your life that can help you to better manage your business and better grow, you also have to think about it from a personal perspective. Like, how can I as a business owner protect my peace? And how can I find balance in what I'm doing once I get to that stage? What I hear you saying, which I think is just so good, and I'm so glad that you brought these points up from the book, is that there are a couple of different reasons, right? We forget to lean into our who's. Fear, right? We're afraid. And there's cost. We're often fearful of the associated cost and the risk of what it could mean for us as a business to lean into the wrong who. We can mitigate that by implementing different who's in 3 different categories, right? You've got your team, then your office, your accountants, your business accountability groups, your mentors. In the wise words of Rachel Wilder, our director of operations, even coaches need coaches. Yeah. And when we're talking about how to be the best that we can, sometimes even coaches need coaches. Yeah. That third category being the third party companies who have already figured it out for us that we can lean into and trust but verify. And so to me, that encompasses something that we know as the multiplier effect. I'm wondering if you can explain for practices what that means and how they can use that to their advantage.
As we evolve as business owners and you start to really think about everybody that you're in contact with, whether it's in your office, your business life, your personal life, and you think about a network out there, I look at it as our who's and their who's. If we can really tap into that, I think that is the coolest thing I can say.
Yeah.
What I knew and who I knew 18 years ago is very different than what I know and who I know now. And it will continue to evolve as I continue to evolve in my business and who I am interacting with. When I got started as a consultant, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have the network of connectors that I do now. But it was because of meeting a person and then using them for something and them saying, hey, you got to talk to, and then moving on. I'll use this podcast as an example. I got started and I said, for a long time wrestling with, I wanted to do a podcast. And I think for a lot of people, it comes to, do you write a book? Do you do a podcast? Like, how are you going to share your thoughts, your knowledge? Are you feeling the squeeze from declining starts and cash flow as costs continue to rise? Building on their industry-leading patient acquisition, insurance management, and collections solution, Orthofy is delivering groundbreaking innovations to keep your practice thriving. Orthofy's latest feature, iMax, allows you to maximize every insurance claim submission, adding tens of thousands of dollars to your annual production. Plus, with the game-changing combo of FPT10 and third-party financing, Orthofy is making it even easier for patients to say yes to treatment while ensuring steady cash flow for your practice. Orthofy's commitment to your success in today's evolving orthodontic landscape is why I recommend them to my clients, and right now is the best time to get started. Visit startmoresmiles.com and use promo code HeyDocs to get 50% off your implement. Hey Docs, did you know that October is Substance Abuse Prevention Month? As you may recall, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I believe at some point in our lives we will each know and love an addict. And through all of the pain and chaos, we just want to see them heal. But finding help is hard, and reaching recovery is even harder. That is where 180 Ministries comes in, a faith-based recovery program that offers life-changing support to individuals battling substance abuse and addiction. With locations across Colorado and Utah, they provide a safe, compassionate program predicated on hope and healing for men and women and for mothers and children. That is why I am featuring them on the show, because I know that our dental and orthodontic community can help make a difference in the fight for relief. Whether you are seeking help in recovery or are wanting to make a donation towards this amazing cause, visit 180ministries.net to learn more about how you can help support this incredible mission. Let's join together to turn lives around one step at a time. Hey Docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at GetSmileSuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence. I wanted to do this podcast because I know a lot of really cool people out there, and they've got some great things to say. I want to highlight all these who's that I know. As I was going through that, I started noodling the idea. And Jessi, even you and I talked about this idea and how do we do it?
I remember.
And then we connect with a company that did podcasts. They were our first who. Interestingly enough, sometimes we outgrow our who's. I was willing to pivot and acknowledge that I think we've outgrown that who. It's time to move on to something else. And then we're at an ortho party. I meet a great sound engineer. He's phenomenal and able to help us. From there, we're off and on to another sound engineer. Knowing that network and talking to other people who've done podcasts and getting in with their network, that's my personal journey. But going back to your question of the multiplier, it is endless when we start to really hold on and think about, how do I free up my time? Could I be doing the audio engineering for my podcast? Sure. But is that a good use of my time? No, it always comes as I am pulling people into my network or thinking about who I want to connect with or who can do it better than me. I think that is the ultimate piece. I'm Superwoman. I can do it, but who can do it better than me? Jessi, you are my creative director because I can pull together PowerPoints. If anybody has ever seen a PowerPoint presentation from Jill circa 2006, it's a very different presentation than 2024, 23, 22. And it's because I recognized that you've got a talent that's a better use of your time to work on my creative and our presentation, our brand, than it is for me to do it. Could I do it? Yes. Can I do it as well as you? Absolutely not. I think that's my take-home message for doctors out there listening. It isn't that you can't do it, because we can do anything. It's just who can do it better than you. And in them doing it better, does it free up your time? Does it eventually, even though you're spending money, lead to freedom with your money? What does freeing that up lead you to do? So you get to a point where you're like, I could be investing in buildings, or I could be out, whatever, or relationships. I could spend all weekend long trying to curate the Hey Docs podcast. I could hand it off to the right people, Jordan, my sound engineer, all of them, and let them do it for me. Now I can curate my relationships and do all of that. Does that help answer that question a little bit?
I think you hit it out of the park on that. When we're talking about the multiplier effect, it's like that principle, the 6 degrees of separation, right? Where everybody is just 6 people away from knowing each other. You can't underestimate the power of networking, which seems so cliche when you get into business, especially if you're more of an introvert like me. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do a networking thing. But there's real power in that. The other thing that you hit on that's so important for doctors and listeners to take into account is the power of delegation. And you talk about that in our team and how important it is for us to stay into our lanes, and we're going to dive deep, not wide.
Yep.
There comes a point in business where we really dive deep and get good at certain things. That is the best way for us to spend our time and have the freedom of pursuit in other things and in life. So I think as we're wrapping up here, can you give us top 3 takeaways? Let's hear the spotlight on 3 things.
Inevitably, if you're a new business owner listening, if you're a new doctor, you are probably in that Superman, Superwoman syndrome right now. Trust yourself to start really leaning into who's. Just take small steps. It doesn't mean you're going to delegate everything. Just what is one thing that you are an obstacle of that you could delegate or put another person in place for? In doing that, what will that free you up to do? And if you can think of it that way, like little tiny baby steps. First, I'm going to trust my TC that I don't need to be in that room for 40 minutes. I'm going to trust them that we can train through a good handoff where I can be in there a little bit less, and that they're going to be able to close that deal for me so I can see more patients. I think that's the first thing. Just recognizing where you're at and what your bottleneck. What are you doing that's causing the bottleneck for your forward progress? So
All right,
that
there's number one. Don't be a bottleneck.
yeah. I think the second one is starting to really identify what you want. You've got your practice, you've got your business,
Yes.
but what
Mm-hmm.
is that next step? Because that shiny new penny wears off.
Oh.
And what is it that you want next? Do you want more time with your family? Do you want more balance? Do you want to be able to give back and go on mission trips every year and have time to step away from your practice once a year and do something like that? I think you have to think about that and then think, okay, what do I need to put in place, or who are the who's that I need to put in place? An example, I want to be able to be gone for a week, and I know that my phones are being answered and new patients are being scheduled even while I'm gone. What do I need in this next year? What do I need? What's my ultimate goal? I always say we're playing chess, not checkers. Every move that we're making, I may be making a decision now in my business that I know is not going to come to fruition until 2 years from now. It's the long game. We're playing the long game here. What steps do I need to be putting in place so that I can have more freedom to travel or to do whatever that is? So that's my second one. And then my third one, and this is probably the hardest, is realizing that there are people out there that can do it better than us. I'm good at what I do. I was top of my class. I wouldn't have made it into ortho residency if I wasn't top of my class. I'm really good at what I do, but there is always somebody else out there that's better than our teams, better than us. And if we can dial into them, they may be able to get something done in 40 minutes that would have taken us 5 hours. I did how to do a podcast, but I would not want to be living in that space that I was 3 years ago. That was because I knew that there were people out there that could do it better than me. I think we always need to be thinking about, what am I doing that is causing the bottleneck? And if I know that somebody else can do it better and I can tap into their resources, what does that then free me up to do? What does that then free me up to be on to my next idea? We joke all the time that I'm the balloon and you guys are the strings, because I am a visionary and I've always got something going, but I can't be on to the next thing if I am the one doing the work. Versus if I can put the right who in place, now I'm free to move on to that next project and then put my who's in place for that next project. So I know that's a long example, but those are my top three.
I love that. And to recap, figure out what your bottlenecks are. Where are you bottlenecking your success? Figure out what it is that you want, so you can figure out what who's you need to put in place to achieve it, and then who can do it better, and don't be afraid to delegate to them. I think those are amazing takeaways for anybody listening. All right, so this is our last question before we go into our speed round. So if someone wanted to get a hold of you and learn more about how you could become one of their who's, where do they do that and how do they start?
The best place is just to hop onto our website, www.practice.com. Fill out the little form. It takes you right to my calendar. You schedule right onto my calendar, and we're becoming best friends. We're going to have a great Zoom call. My favorite is to have cameras on and talk face to face and figure out what you need. Not everybody needs to get going right now. Sometimes we just need to have a conversation about whatever is on your minds. I think that's the best way to reach out to me.
Okay. You're not getting out of it. Let's go. If you could start any business right now, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. I love doing what I'm doing. I would continue on as what we are. Love my dogs. One of favorite things to do is hike. But one of my least favorite things to do is see poop bags on the side of the trails, because they may be in bags that are going to decompose at some point, but that's not going away anytime soon. And I'm not out in the mountains to look at poop bags. This is kind of fun. But one of my businesses that I have always wanted to do, and this is almost less of a business and more of maybe a philanthropy or charity type of thing, is there's these, I'm sure people, again, somebody's going to take this idea and run with it. If you do, at least tag me on it. Does everybody remember those stacking cups where the kids would build these towers? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They came in this mesh sling that had a little belt hook on it, and you could carry your cups around. My idea, the dream that I would have is to have a branded sleeve at trailheads that people could hook onto their belt. It has to be mesh because we all know poop stinks and we don't want a bag that's got that smell in there. They can just pick up their bags, None of us want to carry a bag of poopy along the trail, especially when we're doing a long trail, but that they would carry it and they don't even have to pay. They can donate to some type of a charity. That's the honor system. Take it, use it, clean up your own poop bags, and maybe there's some charity that they could, that would be associated to it for the Humane Society. Okay, I know that was a really long answer, but
this is not a speed round answer, Jill, but I am glad you gave us context. If you would have said, I want to start a poop bag company, that is the best thing I've heard today.
Random thoughts from Jill. You never know what's coming out in a speed round.
And this is why I love working for you. What's the best investment you've ever made?
I think just investing in myself, being willing to say, I can do this, and at any point being willing to give it up if the doors were closing. So investing in myself and being brave enough to take the first step.
How do you handle work-related stress?
Walking. Anytime I can get out and walk outdoors, especially if I have an opportunity to get out and walk with my dogs.
What's one trend in the industry that you're excited about?
Gosh, I think I'm really just excited about all the who's out there. I know buzz right now is AI, but for me, I'm excited to see all the people that are bringing companies to our market that are helping our industry solve the problems that are just tough to solve in our businesses.
And then what's the most valuable piece of advice that you would give to someone who's just starting their career?
I think not being afraid to start. Sometimes you just have to start. I think people can get so wrapped around the axle trying to figure out all of the things. Sometimes you just have to go and know that you won't know it all. You won't have it all figured out. It's going to be messy, but being willing to pivot if it's not exactly, I know that's more than one piece of advice, but that's what I would say. Don't be afraid to start, even if you don't have it figured out.
Okay, great. Jill, thank you so much for imparting all of that amazing information upon us. I know that I have learned a lot from this episode, and I'm sure that all of our listeners have too.
Thanks, Jessi, for doing this. All right, see ya.
Of course. Bye.